What is going on, everyone? Trust the Buzz here. If you're new to the channel, I make sure all the Hornets content that interests you. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. If you cannot tell by the thumbnail title of this video, in today's video, we're going to be talking about Ace Bailey and just talking about how he can impact the team. I really want to focus on the first 2 years and then obviously his career trajectory. If you don't know, if you didn't watch my last video, I am talking about every prospect that kind of fits in this full range, and then possibly some trade back guys, and then even some second round guys. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to push the Ace Bailey narrative on you or I'm trying to trash Ace Bailey. I am doing pros and cons of every single player. When we get to my player, I'll let you know. But and honestly, my mind keeps changing, so I don't even know if I'm a good resource for that. But anyway, let's talk about Ace Bailey, who is one of the more, I would say, I don't know. He causes a lot of discussion, I would say, just because like he's very polarizing in that way. One, I think immediately when it was announced that he's not 6'10", and he's more like, what, 6'8", it's like 6'7" and some change. Yeah, 6'7" and a half without shoes. So he's not 6'10", maybe 6'9" in shoes. That automatically dropped him down a lot of people's board who already weren't fond of him. It didn't matter to me that much. He still looks like he's 6'10" on film. I don't care what anybody says. He looks like he's 6'10". I'm not saying he is 6'10", but he definitely presents and plays like a much bigger wing, and that's kind of going to be what he's used for essentially. And once he gets into the league, for the Hornets specifically, I think he adds shot creation ability that we don't have outside of LaMelo, who even he had to work on it by getting to the rim more and not settling for so much for the outside shot. I think LaMelo had to work on it, but like Brandon can do it, Miles can do it, but they're just not reliable when it comes to absolutely creating their own shot, night in and night out. I think LaMelo's the only one. Trey Mann too, but he was injured last year. But yeah, Ace I think provides that. The only thing I will say about Ace is that a lot of people who are these like extreme shot creators, he doesn't necessarily have like go-to moves. He doesn't necessarily, well, he does have a go-to move, but he doesn't have like a plethora of moves to use. It's very much a lot of the same. It's a lot of step backs, a lot of fades. That's kind of his game. That's just what he likes to do, and he hits them. I mean, he has a high release, so it's hard to guard. As I mentioned, even though he's only 6'8", we'll say, he still has like a 7-foot wingspan. So it's very difficult for people to contest his shots. And he uses that to his ability, but he uses it to the ability of like a college level player. I would be very, very interested to see how good he can be when he's using that when he's using it in just more than two ways. At the NBA level, I think that there's so many different ways you can use that, like long wingspan, and the way that you have the high release. There's so many different ways you can use that to be effective. And in college at Rutgers, it was just very one-dimensional. So I hope that changes in the future. But either way, it was effective. He shot like 34% from three. So I'm not really too concerned about that. My only thing is that 35% is not good enough to make this team a good three-point shooting team. So I don't feel as though right now you can pick Ace Bailey and assume that our three-point percentages will increase, which we take some of the most threes in the league and we make the least amount, like I think we're 28th or something like that in made threes. So I don't honestly feel like he's going to help with that, but I do feel like he's going to help with just making those looks better for other players. So for the Trey Manns, LaMelo Balls, Brandon Millers, Miles Bridges, Josh Okogie, even Josh Green, as he's still on the roster. I think that the way he's able to operate, especially in the mid-range, I think that will open up those shots. But will he directly impact by his shooting? I don't think so, especially the first 2 years. It's going to take some time. I will say that you got to think about the type of shots he takes. That's another reason why that's probably low. But other than that, I think Ace Bailey is just a very, very tantalizing offensive player. Like, he's a guy that, the highlights look amazing. It's when you get to those, like when you're watching games and watching possessions, it's really just he takes himself out of the game. That's the best way I can put it. And for guys like that, I hate to say this because it's very obvious, but it really is one or two ways where they learn to adapt, and then it's just a mental focus thing. And then once they lock in, they're good. And then some guys just never get to that point. And I think it's more or less than not the latter. That it's very rare that they get to where they really could be because they just weren't hyper focused as they should. And I highly, highly believe Ace Bailey, at his best, could probably have the biggest peak in this draft class, and that's over Cooper Flag. I think the likelihood of getting there is probably less than like other guys. I would put it less than VJ. I would put it less than Coop, of course. I would put it less than Dylan, his teammate, Dylan Harper. But if he does hit, I mean, by far, he could be one of the best players, if not the best player in this draft class. Defensively, what I like about it, and you can kind of see by the numbers, I know that you don't necessarily want to rate defense by numbers, but what I liked about Ace Bailey is that he used his length a lot as a weak side defender. He's able to cover a lot of ground and then meet somebody at the rim. I think he was really good at that. That's how he averages his 1.3 blocks. He used his 7-foot wingspan to get into passing lanes. He is a very disruptive player, maybe not to the extent of a VJ Edgecombe, but his natural length and his I don't know, he's like magnetic to the ball. Like, he's always going to find the ball, whether it's offense or defense, and I think that allows him to get those steals as well. I've even seen on film Ace Bailey kind of get in the stance defensively and lock up some opposing players. So that's one thing you got to think about. I really believe a lot of his game is just mental. It's just, if he learns to make a lot of the right decisions, whether that's offensively, defensively, he has the skill set, he has the physical up to do so. It's just putting it together mentally for him. Will he ever do that? I don't know, but I think Ace Bailey is an exceptional prospect. A lot of reasons why I think there's consideration against Ace Bailey, particularly with the Hornets, is that while this is a new front office, it's hard to ignore what's been in the past. I just saw a post today, and maybe I could pull it up real quick and I'll keep talking, but I saw a post today that was talking about like our last few draft picks. And our last few draft picks, here it is. And shout out to No Ceilings for this. And then let me zoom in. Okay. All right. If you look at our last like few draft picks, starting at 2015, right? Frank Kaminsky, bust. Malachi Richardson, we traded that pick. I don't know what we did with it, but Malik Monk, we never really could. We could never really develop him the way he was needed to be developed, and we saw that he went on to have a great season with the Lakers, and he's been pretty good for the Sacramento Kings. Miles Bridges, I know that some people think about the Shea trade, but up until the fourth season, they both were at that fourth season, they both were like outside looking in to all-star players. Like they were like on the cusp of becoming all-stars. And then obviously Shea went one way, Miles went the other way. But up until that fourth year, well, really fifth year, Miles had a late start. Like his first 3 years, he was averaging I think 12 and most 13. But we saw that that second half of the third season, he kind of jumped. But in that fourth season, they both were borderline all-stars, albeit different conferences. PJ, he had all the tools. I feel like PJ kept being used wrong. LaMelo, we know LaMelo has been, and then this obviously hurt us. But we have had some good players in this in this span. We just were never able to fully develop them, and that's kind of like my fear with Ace, is that I just don't know if we're the right organization for him. And a lot of people are saying that's just what I think. But either way, I think you can make I know people look at a lot of numbers with Ace. You look at his 3-point rate, his free throw attempt rate, because he's not that good of a passer. I understand all these things, but when you think about just what it comes down to, if we're watching the NBA Finals, a lot of it comes down to, can you put the ball in the basket? He definitely can do that, and then you just hope that everything else pans out. He has all the tools. I would be lying if I said Ace Bailey didn't have all the tools. He has all the tools, but it's just a matter of, can he put it all together? I think that he can easily be just one of the most talented players in here if he's not already, and then just projecting forward. Now, how does he help with the Hornets? For me, I believe that he has to. He is a rhythm guy. He's a guy that kind of needs the ball in his hand. He needs the looks. I don't know if he can get that in Charlotte if the Hornets are trying to be good. That's another thing that I wonder about. People say they want Ace Bailey, then they also want to be good this year, and I just don't know if that can happen. Ace Bailey is someone I understand you can kind of put him in the corner, but if I'm the one drafting Ace Bailey, I'm not drafting him and throw him in the corner. I'm drafting him to allow him to work. Whether he's the second, third guy, doesn't matter. And he doesn't have to necessarily jump into the second or third guy role, but I need to see spurts of him being able to just be the guy. And you have to live with some of the bad shots, a turnover. You have to live with some of these things, but that's who he is. And it's not to say that can't be changed, but I think you'll be doing yourself and him a disservice if you pick him at 4 to stick him in the corner not for his career, obviously, but like just for the first 2 years. It's like, but what Ace Bailey is so good at is putting the ball on the floor. And we see sometimes players just can't do that. If they are, put in one role, they're never able to develop into who we thought they would be. And obviously, as you continue to go up, whether that's, from high school to college to the league, your role could change. I just saying that as good as Ace Bailey is and as much flashes he has shown, I would prefer to let him work. And I just don't know if that can happen in Charlotte. Maybe it can, maybe it can't. But still, I think Ace Bailey is a fantastic prospect. I think that, even though the fit necessarily isn't great with him, LaMelo, and Brandon, I still believe that having that creativity between those three particularly, and then you got to think about the rest of the team as well, and having that size, which is something we desperately needed, because even though he's not 6'10", I'm still taking 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. I think that he just adds a lot to this team on paper, and I feel as though, when will that time come where we're able to kind of see it all come together? I don't know when that will be, but on paper, he fills a lot of needs just by standing there, simply. Because you can see that he can shot create. You can see that he causes, plays. He, is an event maker on defense. You see that he has the size that we need, especially if someone that can shoot, because our tallest person that can shoot in the last few years has been Davis Bertans at like 6'9". So I think that he just adds a lot to this team. It's just a matter of how you're going to marry what we do and then kind of how he plays. It's not really necessarily always about fit. Sometimes you need the best player. When you only win 19 games, you only won 19 games for a reason. And I feel as though you may have the best player available. If you believe that Ace Bailey is best player available, I can't be mad at you because of the fact that he's shown a lot. Even though, he may not be the analytics darling, he may make bonehead decisions, because he definitely does. You're going to have to live through that. Natural talent, you can see that he's going to be someone special. So it's just a matter of putting it all together. Well, let me know what your thoughts are down below. I think that, the first 2 years, I feel as though his role will be this kind of, like, he'll maybe, I wouldn't say initiate the offense because he's not that, like, versed as a playmaker, but I think you'll see a lot of uses out of him in certain lineups, and I feel as though that's good. I feel as though you pair that with a Trey Mann, and those LaMelo Ball minutes look a lot better. As I mentioned with Khan, except with Khan, I think that you can have Trey kind of play off him. In this case, it would obviously be Ace playing off Trey, but then you have two great, shot creators that, they're not going to be easy to guard. So I can't tell you that he's going to automatically just be able to jump in and make a difference. But I do feel like if he buys in, like, he'll get on the floor defensively, because I think his defense is a lot better than people give him credit for. And then you just got to think about what's the rest going to look like. Because right now he's like a very, very much highlight player. Like, the highlights are just amazing. But when you watch the game and you see kind of what it takes to get these certain shots, and you see kind of the typical shots he usually takes, it just makes you wonder. But if you were trying to ignore that, he's a shot maker, then I don't know what you're doing, because he's obviously that. So once again, let me know what your thoughts are down below. I didn't yap as long this time as I did with the Concanable video, because when I was done, I realized it was 22 minutes and I figured that was too long. But let me know what your thoughts are on Ace Bailey. Once again, I think he's a fantastic prospect. I wouldn't be, as you all know, I'm not mad at any of these guys at 4, but I feel as though Ace has a lot of upside. And I'm not gonna lie, as someone that's been scouting Ace more and more, and even at this point, I'm kind of moved on to the second round now, looking at guys. But as sometimes I just go back and look, and the more I look at him, the more I'm like, I see it. Like, I see why people have him so high. I see why, a lot of people think that, look, regardless of what you think, regardless what a lot of like big media places are saying, he has the NBA body. He has the NBA skill. It's literally just putting it together. And if you're drafting top 5, why not take the risk? So I definitely can see that, especially when you see like the length on teams like the Pacers and the Thunder. Like, he literally fits into that. And maybe for him, like, it's right place, right time as far as him being drafted. But once again, let me know what your thoughts are on Ace Bailey, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.